Welcome, listeners, to everyone, all who are listening and who all you are turning. This is live coming from New Zealand World News, as we always do a positive approach and bringing you different people from different walks and different places. Today, we have got the pleasure to invite Ruby, who is from Houston, Texas. And she is absolutely an amazing soul that we are trying to bring and start this show called Divine Matrix. Now, what is Divine Matrix? We will hear from her very soon. But Divine Matrix, and under that, we are planning to do this series of episodes. The first one being emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence is very key at this moment. Everybody is going through lots of emotional turmoil or lots of emotional challenges. But the most important thing that we are there, that emotions are very powerful, and emotions should be considered as our strength and not our weakness. And so today we have got the pleasure once again to invite Ruby from Texas, which I will be talking to her and uncovering a lot of insights and people who are understanding about and going through lots of challenges of emotional. Please tune in to listen to this beautiful, amazing, motivational words, statements, but also sharing her own journey and experiences will definitely lead you to somewhere to resonate with her. So without any delay, welcome Ruby for our first episode of Emotional Intelligence under the banner Divine Matrix. So let's welcome to you.
Thank
Good
you.
morning.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you so much. So honored to be here. So grateful to share this space and co-create with you. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm grateful.
No, it's a great pleasure. And once again, so I want to begin with Divine Matrix, with one of these key, by sharing your own experiences and your own journey. I'm trying to uncover here, even it will resonate with me and with other audiences that are here to listen. And there is no resemblance of what we are not letting anyone to say that follow this or follow that, but this is something that everybody and every human being really needs to know and should know from their own. So without delaying, I want to ask you, what is this divine matrix that according to you in this
Okay.
universe?
Sure. So the divine matrix is the container that holds the universe, and it's the bridge between all things, and it holds the mirror that shows us what we create. And so it is the reality of the spirit, of the energy of the soul, is how I understand it and resonate with it best. It is the veil between worlds in which we really truly are. And it is highlighted in my life so much so that it has completely changed the way that I am, the way that I see, just to a greater version of myself by stepping into this awareness, because it was not something I was aware of before. And so becoming aware of the divine matrix is truly, truly inspiring and transformational for anyone who is open to it. It is by choice, of course. It is one of those things that we must choose to explore, but in our heart's desire, should we choose it, it reveals itself so beautifully in a beautiful divine flow state.
Right, right. So basically, it is your kind of awareness and self-awareness and making it immerse yourself into the universe that we are living in and experiencing the whole around us. Is that what I
Absolutely.
understood? Divine
Yes,
Matrix?
it is me as a human being connecting to the spirit me, connecting to God, and it's all of it in oneness, and it's the divine matrix.
Mm.
Yes.
So coming back to this emotional intelligence that we are going to talk about it, and there is a lot of emotional challenges, a lot of emotional turmoil at the moment going on with
Right.
this uncertainties of pandemic, call it, or any other that we face, irrespective of whether pandemic is there or not, inside our mind and inside our soul. We always have those challenges of intelligence. And that's the whole thing. So how do you really, can you share us some of your journey, that what made really from one step to another step, how did you uncover yourself and how did you like resonate, and how did you acknowledge and your strength of your intelligence?
Hmm. Okay, so first I have to share, for me, I hear spirit. So that is a huge blessing for me. And I listen to the guidance, which has been to become aware of the emotions, to feel them completely and give a name to them, not the book name, not what the world tells me. No, sit in my heart, sit in my
Mm,
being, and feel the emotions that are present in my now moment. And this became apparent to me in situations that were life changing. Where, so for example, for me, it was like going from one life to another. There was a huge change that was needed, and there was an awareness that a change was needed. But at the root cause of that change, there was an emotion. There was emotion that was going to either allow for that change or block it and repeat a cycle, right? And so I became so hyper aware through trial, through tribulation, through situations of discomfort, because this is where I have learned that I grow the most. It's in the discomfort, it's in sometimes pain. And what that calls me back to is myself, and to evaluate what that emotion is, why that emotion is there. What does it truly mean to me? Where did it even begin for me? These are all things that became very apparent for me in a way that is divinely guided, but it was very obvious in the physical of how change came only when I sat with myself and put a name to that emotion and accepted that emotion as a part of me, not separate from me, because what we resist persists. And therefore, I found that there are cycles that were repetitive based on the emotions that were playing present. Because again, I come back into the awareness of energy, and energy is everything, and everything is energy. Emotions are energy, and emotions is what I know that the focus of our feelings becomes the reality of our world. This is what I know in my own journey with myself. And so to simply say that, we choose a new reality is just not enough. It doesn't work like that. It requires the evaluation of the emotions, the experience of, that particular emotion and what it feels like, to the extent of, okay, do I want this anymore? It, some people will hold on to an emotion to the point where it's exhausting. We tend to do that as human beings in our unawareness. And that's usually when we'll let it go. And I experienced so much of it in a cycle form that made me stop and look at, okay, what am I allowing myself in my now moment? In my now, because this is key, in the now is where I can sit in my heart, feel this emotion, feel this experience in its entirety, accept it as a part of me, accept all the thoughts that attach to it. And then only in that moment, while sitting in my heart, I'm able to bring it all in my now and decide, transmute, decide whether I'm going to continue to allow this to have the power that it has, whether it's to discomfort or pain, or accept it for what it is and let it flow, meaning know that it does not control me, that I can simply choose a different frequency, a different thought, a different emotion in its place by bringing gratitude into the situation. Gratitude heals all. And I
mm,
have found the power of gratitude in all emotional intelligence to be such a powerful clearing, even just in prayer. The modalities are endless. There's just no wrong way to do it. But becoming aware of the emotions is really the game changer for me. And it has been, because through my emotional intelligence, I became more aware of what I am vibrating, what I am creating in every moment, how I'm showing up in relationships, how I'm showing up in life. And then taking full responsibility for that, not blaming, because when we point, there's three fingers pointing back, right? That's my responsibility. It's not the responsibility of somebody else. We can't change people. We can only change ourselves. And
mm,
with that wisdom, I knew that only in here could I change it. And I needed to tell a different story. But before I can tell a different story, I needed to understand the emotion that was present. It needed a new story, because
mm,
we're that powerful that it's simply a choice. It's a change. It's a decision. It's
mm.
in our hands, but we must choose it. So the emotional intelligence has been huge for me. And I have experienced most of my transformation through the awareness of my emotions. And I can say that wholeheartedly, outside of me, by me working on me, becoming more aware of my emotions in every moment, the good, the bad, the ugly, all of it, because it's all me,
Mm,
I'm able to move more freely in the world in my now. because everything becomes my teacher. Everything outside of me is my teacher. And it's through emotional intelligence, it's feeling energy. And again, everything is energy for me. So when I feel as an empath, as all these many names that we give it, which we are all connected and truly it's a divine gift we all have, I can empathize with my environment. I can empathize with my loved ones. I can empathize in the world in a way that I did not before. And it's a beautiful dance that we do with the divine. And I'm grateful. I'm incredibly grateful for it.
No, very well said. I wanted to ask you this two things that you made that stands out from this question that I have is you said be the change yourself rather than blaming, make the blame game. And that's powerful itself. And that's one of the key tools of the intelligence as well, that the sooner you understand the power of that, the better. And then the second thing I took it from you is the good, bad, ugly. Now, this is very, very interesting and very much close to, because every single person, human being, faces this good, bad, and ugly around them every single moment. So my question here is, once again, is to uncover more insights from that when you experienced this good, bad, and ugly with yourself, whether it be it in your personal relation, whether in your family, whether in your friends, whether in your surroundings, anything, but yet you stick to that concept of be the change and not make the blame game. So you took it everything in your stride, whether it is good, whether it is bad, whether it is ugly, it's you, it's not others. And if you want to change, it's you who have to change, not the others. So tell me one of the things that challenges that you must be facing, how hard it is when it comes to emotional aspect of it, because you are dealing here with your own people, with your blood relations, of your non-blood relations, but very close friends, close colleagues. What was your experience, and how did you deal with this? Like,
okay, no, for sure. So I would say one of the biggest things for the biggest change for me came when my awakening happened. It made me very different from everybody around me. It was, there were misunderstandings, there was lack of understanding, there was lack of support from the outer world because I was changing. I was becoming somebody different. And in the beginning, the emotions that I felt were of course, the basic ones, the ones that we can sum everything up to in spirituality, the three main ones, which is abandonment, a lack of self-worth, or judgment. You know, these are where these were the emotions that were triggered in me in the moment of my transformation of being just a 9-to-5 person working a regular job, being really successful as an accountant, to deciding, I don't know, I'm being guided to do something different. And the world around me is like, what do you mean guided? That makes no sense, right? To the world of a practical minded. But to me, my divinity, my soul was guiding me somewhere else. So two very different experiences, and it was clashing. There was not a lot of support. There was not a lot of understanding. There was not a lot of any of that. And that caused within me those lacks, those wounds to come up, to be reflected upon. And in the beginning, it was hard because I felt alone. I felt isolated. I felt like nobody understood me. I felt like maybe I was crazy. I felt all these things. But then I slowed down and I allowed myself to accept that as a truth, that I do feel that way. And that is a truth for me. And it's okay for me to be honest and validate that for myself. I accept that wholeheartedly, that that's my truth, because that's how I feel. And when I accepted it, I had a moment where I sat in my heart with all of it and said, but I don't have to, because just because it's that way out there, they don't understand, doesn't mean that I can't find a way to be whole in here. And so, and the guidance was do the inner work, because there's a resonance. There's something in here that's resonating with that. There's a belief, there's a thought, it sits in the subconscious. Now, this is where we are not aware. This is the unknown. And so my guidance was tap into your subconscious, and all of this is going to come up for you to take in as a lesson, as an opportunity to grow. And I treat it as such. I looked at every person outside of me as simply a version of me, a belief system, a thought, a habit, a condition even. What part of me is that? Is what I started asking. And from that moment on, I looked at everybody as a version of me, no matter its form. And as the more I did that, the more I had compassion for those
Hmm.
aspects. And the more I integrated that part, that version of me, because at some lifetime I was that, because we're all connected. Everything is connected. I'm not separate. And the only time I'm going to experience resistance is if the only time I experience challenges is if I'm resistant to something. And I knew this at that time. And the more I started treating everyone as a lesson, something to teach me, an aspect of me, the more they just kind of on their own changed, not with my help, not with my need for them to change. It was actually me pulling all my energy back and not looking at them as separate from me anymore, that actually allowed for me to transmute that energy, because we're no longer separate, we're one. And when I was able to do that through the emotional body, through every experience, every challenge, regardless its form, I've grown every single time by leaps and bounds. And the result in hindsight, when I look back, because I'm just here focusing here on me, but when I look back, being that change set the tone for everybody around me to be inspired by, we don't have to be stuck in those emotions. We don't experience all that chaos so much anymore. We don't, it's a byproduct, natural state of being by doing this work, right? And so
Yes.
for me, it has been looking at every single person, regardless of the form it comes, as what version of me or what energy within me resonates with that. 9 times out of 10, again, I've been doing this work for a long time. And what I can say in my now moment, anytime that I have a challenge, I've noticed it's subtle. It's so incredibly subtle in the emotional body. When you become so aware of self, then it becomes, okay, it's projections at this point, right? It's projections, still a lesson, still something to learn, but it's the tests of how kind we can be to that energy that is wounded, how much love and kindness we can have for accepting all truths, no matter the truths in which they are. And by being in that energy, it allows other people to feel safe to be who they are. It allows them to even desire a shift within themselves by standing in the presence of an energy they can love unconditionally. It is a pure, pure divine state of being, and it's only seen from the eyes of God. And that's where I'm guided. I'm guided to always see from this eye, to do this work here so I can be a clear channel for this information, this energy to flow. But it is truly in the emotional intelligence where I have found the most powerful transformations of my life. And it affects not only myself, but everybody around me as a result to the work that I'm doing. And all I'm doing is focusing here. It's a beautiful, beautiful dance we do with the divine, truly.
So coming back to that emotional, because emotional intelligence is, and emotions are one of the powerful things that we have, and we should be, as I always say to myself, that my emotions are my strength and not my weakness.
Yes.
But having said that, when it comes to reality, when it comes to practicality, emotions control us at most of the times, unless and until you have understood the spiritual intelligence of that emotional intelligence. Now I'm coming back to that. How do we merge that emotional intelligence when it merges into spiritual intelligence? And this is where we talk about emotions, about love, kindness, you said, empathy and sympathy. But then also the opposite side is the hurt and hate and all sorts of negativity that also comes along with the emotion intelligence. But this is where your spiritual intelligence should kick in and actually tell you that, are these good parts or bad parts? Doesn't matter. They are the parts that you are living with, and they are the ones that you have to control on. So do you think that with your friends, with your family, the responsibilities which comes along with this emotional intelligence, the responsibilities are separated from this emotional intelligence? Do you separate them, or do you still keep with you and still like, okay, yes, you are telling them you are the change, and then you want everybody around you not to be blamed, but also to work around the way you have understood yourself, and you don't expect people to understand you, but then you still expect to work around everyone. So that's a challenge, isn't it? That's responsibilities, and that hate and that hurt of hurting others. by your own, being yourself on your own. Isn't it sometimes most of the people might get hurted that, oh, she's ignoring me, or she's not looking after me, or she's just doing what she wants to do and not understanding me? Is that something that you have experienced, Ruby?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. There's that resistance to change, absolutely.
Mm,
And other people, when you start to vibrate higher, you change your way of being. Yeah, sure. I get that at times, even because there's structure that the human mind, right? Says one thing I hear often, and I know, is God is simple and man is complicated. And what I mean by that is that when the mind rules over the heart, we have that resistance, we have that tug of war, we have that
mm,
pull, and absolutely it's there. And what I'm guided to do is, in moments of that experience, is to, instead of take just what I'm feeling and how I understand, is to actually stop for a minute and see from the eye of God what it's like to be that person in that person's shoes, to completely, now this is what God tells me, in order for me to see from the eye of God the way that God sees, I have to be able to put myself completely in the shoes of that person, not be at all separate from that person. And when I can do that, I understand what that person is feeling, and I take a moment to validate that for that person, because a lot of, there's a need there, there's a need that needs to be met. And sometimes it's as simple as understanding and giving that person, that experience, the opportunity to be validated in their truth, not because it's my truth, no, but because it is a truth, it's valid and it should be honored. And if I want to be honored in my truth, in the reflection, I must honor the truth of another. And then in the middle, we co-create. We can co-create, we can compromise, but it only comes after I can fully integrate being in that
mm,
person's shoes and seeing from that person's eyes. And when
mm.
I can do that, then we're doing that dance. Now, there are those few that are set in their ways, that are not open to change. That's a
Yep.
given. And what I'm guided to do is, again, accept them as they're in their truth and let them know I hear them and their truth is valid and it is their truth, but it is not mine. And that's okay for us not
Mm,
to agree. We can
mm.
agree to disagree, and that's perfectly fine. There's a
Absolutely.
vibrational alignment that allows for us to come together and go
Absolutely.
apart based on what we need in our now moments. It's
Mm,
just energy that is going to pass, and it's
mm,
okay for that energy to pass with love. I send all energy transmuted with love and healing and understanding for every human being, because we deserve that. And so that still may not sit well with that individual. There's that resistance, there's that anger. But once I have done my part with understanding and letting go with love, like I understand it's okay. It's okay to agree to, we can agree to disagree. It's okay. Your truth is honored regardless. I can walk away with my head held high, knowing I have lived to the highest of my ability in that moment. What the other person does is their karma. We
mm.
create our own karma, love. And so I trust
Yes.
wholeheartedly that that's just the flow of things. And if they stay mad, I pray they heal. But it's no longer in my reality from that point on, because I've lived up to my highest potential and I
Mm,
showed up in the way that
mm.
I'm guided to.
Yep.
And I can allow people to just be.
No, I love that because very well said that. But I have got one kind of question here. Like, yes, I totally agree. I totally hear you that you accept negativity and you accept the way people are. We agree to disagree, disagree to agree. And that's the way we are here to live our journey. And that's to me is the most important part is I call it the most spiritual journey rather
Right,
than a belief journey. And
right,
it's more like a free spirited acceptance of everything and
right,
acceptance who you are, the way you are, and the way just the way you are
right.
and just the
Yes,
way others are. So that's to me is all spiritual journey. And I can see that how you have also merged the emotional intelligence into the spiritual intelligence, which is what I call
yes,
it,
yes.
the spiritual intelligence. But I have got one question. God, you mentioned quite a few times that God has guided you, or something, some force is guiding you, or
Mm,
you are guiding yourself. When it comes to emerging of intelligence, emotional intelligence, and spiritual intelligence, which you have very well put it, and very well, I feel that you are more like a spiritual soul than just a normal thing, just people who are in their belief system. So you are not in their belief system. You are a
Right.
complete acceptance. So where do you see yourself when it compares with the word called God? Is it something that the God does exist, or is it, what is it according to you? Who is God? Whether we created God or God created us, if I ask you that.
Yeah, God is everything. God lives inside. God is the spark of life
So, I
that,
mean, so you can call yourself God and I can call myself God, or is it something that
mm,
you think that what is God basically?
yeah, for me, and it's very far-fetched for the human being still. Okay.
Mm,
My knowing is all is self. All is self. God lives inside. We are
mm,
extensions of God in
mm,
experiencing itself in
mm,
different perceptions, realities, energies. And so God is everything and nothing, and we
mm.
move in between. And
Yeah,
so, yeah, absolutely, God lives with all His self. This is the ultimate truth. So I
I
guess
think we
in
should.
a human term, we can say we are God, and yeah, we're a spark. God is the spark, and we are the extension of that spark. And so,
Mm.
yeah, we're one with God. Absolutely.
We should have this topic, another one on, especially on God, because I would love and fascinate. I'm fascinated with the word God, but my belief or my seeking is quite different to what I always say, that God is nothing but who we are. Because if we
Yes.
act like God, then we are God. If we don't act like
Right.
God, then we are not God. Basically, it's
Yes.
very simple. So as you said, the word karma. So everybody gets their answers through their karmas.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
it's that's the divine power that we humans have. But coming back to our emotional intelligence merging with spiritual intelligence, and then you say that, okay, yeah, this is where we humans are. And so our transformation is from that emotional intelligence to the spiritual intelligence. And
Yes.
that's how we humans then become transformed into the way we exist and the way we want to become like a human being.
Right.
So in that sense, what would you like to end on this whole journey that you have faced or you have done through
Ooh.
your whole experiences, coming from different parts of your journey, and then understanding that emotional intelligence is a part of, merged with the spiritual intelligence, and it is the part of the human nature or the human transformation.
Yes. I love the combination of science and spirituality. I
Okay.
love how science supports the energy of emotional intelligence
Hmm.
in a spiritual combination, because we create our reality by what we feel. What we feel is triggered by a thought. So it all connects. It all connects. Everything is connected.
Hmm.
When we become, and from my knowing, from my experience, when I became aware of my emotional intelligence, I became so hyper aware, hypersensitive even to what the emotions are, to the extent that I learned, like I treated it like a science project. I did, because again, I love the science of it, but I love the spirituality, and the human in me
Hmm.
before I trusted spirit completely was like, is this real? Is this, I
Hmm.
hear you, but I need practical, show me in a way that I could taste it, touch it, feel it, that this is real. And so I treated my journey every step of the way like a science project. I
Hmm.
would literally do this integration, and then I, not necessarily to look for it, but I would wait, because I would hear, don't look for it. You kind of have to set it and forget it. That set and forget it took a little while. It took me a little while to set it and forget it and trust that process. So in that time when I was looking, I noticed I wouldn't get results. I wouldn't get results, and I'd be waiting because I was looking. I finally caught myself. Okay, I'm looking, being aware of myself, being aware of the anxiety, being aware of the need to control it, being aware of these emotions that were present while I'm doing this project on my own inner emotional state. And what I noticed is that when I stopped looking, the results would then just randomly come. Meaning, for example, where I was bothered by, say, something that somebody did to me, and it just I couldn't let it go. I was just annoyed by that word, that statement, that comment, right? It lingered, and it played as a story, and it played on my emotions, and the emotions of feeling not enough, the lack of worth, whatnot, what came up. And then when I stopped thinking about it, right, I did my process, I sat with it, and like the scientist I'm trying to be for myself, I'm waiting for that emotion to no longer be here. But it was in my surrender that I found that when I wasn't looking for it, it just happened. It just flowed. So again, it's one of those things you have to experience it. When you experience it, you can't unknow it. You can't unknow it because that's the reality. You got the experience, the wisdom. And so I did it a couple of more times and found that, okay, it's when I'm not focused on the result, when I'm not focused on, okay, is that gone? It's when I pull myself completely back here and I let it go in such a way. But again, that takes time. Just like an onion, it's a layer at a time. It takes time to build up that endurance to be able to let it go. Because like I said, in the beginning, there was a time frame where I just couldn't let it go. And that was my overactive mind looking for a result. Because that's the human part of us, right? It's natural. It's normal for us to look for the results. It's in the surrender. It's in the surrender of what's to come that it comes. And you don't know it until you learn surrender. And you, most of the time we learn surrender, or I have learned surrender through exhaustion, through being tired of worrying about that thing, being tired of feeling that thing, being tired to the point of emotional exhaustion. And I found in my own research with myself that I don't have to get exhausted, that it's a choice, that I can stop at any time, that I'm that powerful, that I can stop at any time and I can say what's going to be. And all I have to do is mean it with all my heart and really, really want it. A key in it is to want it. This emotional intelligence, to want to know thyself so much so. That was my goal. I want to know myself as best I can so that I'm not dependent on the world outside of me. I know myself here and I am able to move about in the world as a more conscious creator. And this is what emotional intelligence has allowed me, because the more tests that I did on myself, then it just becomes a natural byproduct, a natural state of being, a natural flow that in my now, I can sit with the emotions, feel them, accept them, integrate them, give a name to them, validate them, understand them, share them even, right? There's so many ways of expression. There's no right or wrong way. We just need to want it. And I wanted it more than anything else. I wanted to know myself so completely. And I was guided through the emotions. And I have found so much magic and miracles in ways that I did not know were real. And you can't unknow it. And it's through the emotion. So for example, I would have an emotion driving me for a couple of days. I'd experience people. So say I get up, right? Okay. So I get up and I bump my foot on the bed. Well, I can do one of two things. I can be annoyed about that all day. And if I'm annoyed, what I'm going to experience is bumping into more things, or people bumping into me, or just more things that, again, the emotion that was felt is annoyance, is angry, is, hurt. Well, if I hold on to that experience, that emotion, I'm drawing that in through people, places, and things throughout my day. And when I let it go, when I say, okay, that is to let me know, right? What's the lesson? What's the purpose? Because everything is my teacher. The lesson is, okay, that first off doesn't feel good. I validate the emotions, but it's to let me know that that is there so that I can be careful in the next morning. So again, it's in my awareness that it doesn't happen again. So then I can move about my day grateful that I have that awareness that that thing is there and I need to watch it better next time. And I can let it go and I can move about my day and it can be as beautiful as the current emotion in which I'm being in. We are all energy. Everything is energy. And the most dominant energy I have found once I learned through angelic Reiki, once I learned how to feel energy, was in the emotions. I was driven to look at the emotions, not just from the perspective of feeling, but from the perspective of energy and how energy moves. And so the way to move energy is to understand it, to integrate it. It's only blocked with resistance. So the whole coming into the spiritual aspect and bringing emotional intelligence to the spiritual part is there's emotions of hopelessness. There's emotions of things that are really hard to accept sometimes. So for example, say we go to the worst case scenario. Let's go to Let's go to, for example, say a baby or someone losing a baby, right? Really, really, that's pain. That's the worst of the worst kind of pain. Who would want to sit there and say, what is the purpose in this, in such a thing, right? That a human being can't fathom that on its own. You need the energy of love. You need the energy of the divine to support in such a thing. Otherwise, we lose ourselves in a cycle of pain.
Yeah.
The divine will step in and say, this had purpose. This was to show you how to love at a greater level that you would not know otherwise. You do not understand it in your physical sense, but it has a greater purpose. Your capacity to love, it grows. And not only will that mother, that father, that family grow and heal from that, they will help other families that are put in similar situations. It's all connected. It's all to ultimately help us, raise us, and go into higher versions of ourselves. And so it has greater purpose when we understand the emotions and we understand what they're here to teach us. But it starts with us knowing ourselves, because when we know ourselves, we know our energy. And when we know our energy, then we are better equipped to handle what's ours versus what's others. If you step into a room, for example, energy is everything, everything is energy. You step into a room where there is vibrations of, say, lower frequencies, as long as you know yourself, you know what you walked in with, then you know that's not yours. If you start feeling irritated, you start feeling frustrated, again, it's in the awareness of self. How am I feeling? What do I feel right now? That's powerful, because when you know, then you can decide. But if you don't know, that energy of the room, you can become it. And then you'll be just as annoyed or frustrated as everybody in the room without a single awareness within yourself that it's not even yours. So this is the power of emotional intelligence combined with spiritual intelligence for me. This is so freeing in a way that only the experience can really give you that.
No, that was quite an intense, quite an insight of. I think hope the listeners and viewers have understood what you are trying to relay. But I certainly got the gist of it. That it's quite powerful. That you have to explore yourself. You have to not depend on predicted exploration from others or following others and thinking that, okay, how did they got the results and I would like to have the same results and then follow them. Rather than that, explore yourself, find yourself, what exactly, and as you said that you believed in science, and resonation with the spiritual aspect goes hand in hand, and it has always been a confirmation, and that's the confirmation that you can get from yourself by exploring yourself rather than depending on others. Does that make sense, Ruby?
Absolutely,
Am I right
completely.
and correct in saying
Yes,
this, what I've
yes,
understood?
yes, sir,
Excellent.
absolutely.
Because I do realize that spiritual intelligence is quite powerful, and emotional intelligence is a subconscious thing that always happens. Spiritual is something that you have to uncover yourself, that you have to understand yourself and explore yourself. So that's why you got to be more seeker rather than a believer.
Yes,
So does that make sense, Ruby?
absolutely, yes.
No, thank you very much, Ruby. That was a great insight. And I think, I hope the viewers and listeners, if you have any questions, and we will pass on the information about Ruby's as well and mine as well, that you could ask us a question and we could be here to guide you and help you whatever way we can as our experiences and may resonate with you. So there is no such thing as right or wrong, as Ruby mentioned, and there is no such thing as good or bad, but it's all about how you can understand yourself more easily and through your own experiences rather than depending on others and someone else to tell you. Does that end? I like to end here. And any last words, Ruby, that you would like to tell to our listeners, that when it comes to emotional intelligence and spiritual intelligence and how you as a human transform into that, what's your last one final message to the audience?
It would be to learn to listen to self, learn to listen.
Right.
And when I
Okay.
say listen, I don't mean listen, I mean listen. Listen
Yeah.
with your heart,
Good
feel.
way. Mm.
Yes,
Excellent. Thank you so much, Ruby. It was a
you're
great,
very
once
welcome.
again, pleasure.
Thank
And we are
you.
looking forward to seeing you and meeting you once again with another topic with our spiritual journey. panel discussions. We
Absolutely.
might bring
I'm
in some other
open.
people, and we are also viewers and listeners. If you want to take part as well, please do write to us, and we will be there for you to as well incorporate your beliefs and thoughts and visions that we could impact others. Once again,
Absolutely.
thanks, Ruby, for your
Thank
great
you. Thank
presence.
you.
We look
Thank
forward
you
to
for
meet
having
you
me.
again. Bye
Thank
for
you.
now.
Bye bye.